From side hustle to system is not a climb of exhaustion, it is a shift of awareness. The moment an idea is born in the mind, it already carries its perfect pattern. What appears small at first is never small in truth. It is complete in seed form, waiting for right recognition. Many people labor endlessly because they treat their work as effort instead of order, as struggle instead of law. Yet all growth that lasts is governed, calm, and exact. When the inner picture changes, the outer structure must obey. A side hustle lives on personal energy, on long hours, on constant attention. A system lives on alignment. It works while you rest because it is built on principle rather than pressure. The individual who understands this ceases to chase opportunity and instead becomes a channel through which opportunity flows. They do not ask, "How hard must I work?" but rather, "What must I arrange so that work moves through me with ease?" This is the difference between motion and momentum, between noise and power. Every great expansion begins with a decision to think in larger terms. The mind must be trained to release the belief that income is tied to time, that growth requires sacrifice, that success must arrive through strain. These beliefs dissolve the moment one recognizes that intelligence itself is the true source of supply. When intelligence is trusted, it organizes people, processes, and resources into a living system that multiplies results without multiplying effort. What was once done by hand is now done by design. Scaling is not about adding more tasks. It is about removing dependence on the self. The moment a person stops being the center of every action, their work gains the freedom to expand. Clear roles replace confusion. Simple rules replace constant decisions. Repetition replaces reinvention. What was once fragile becomes stable, and what was once chaotic becomes rhythmic. The system begins to respond like a well-trained instrument, producing the same result again and again with precision. The Billionaire Formula is not a mystery reserved for a few. It is a mindset expressed through structure. Thought creates the blueprint, and the blueprint commands form. When thought is disciplined, the system is disciplined. When thought is abundant, the system multiplies. There is no force required, only clarity. One inspired idea, rightly organized, can outperform years of scattered effort. This is why those who understand law move faster than those who rely on will. As order replaces effort, fear disappears. Decisions become clean. Expansion feels natural rather than forced. The work no longer asks for constant motivation because it is fueled by alignment. Money becomes a byproduct instead of a pursuit. Growth becomes predictable instead of accidental. What began as a side hustle quietly transforms into an engine of increase, responding faithfully to the intelligence that designed it, expanding according to pattern, responding to demand, adjusting without resistance, moving forward with certainty, multiplying influence, reach, and return through calm, deliberate structure, rather than strain or hurry. Shift from effort-based work to principle-based structure. The shift from effort-based work to principle-based structure begins the moment one recognizes that force has never been the true creator of results. Effort exhausts because it asks the individual to be the engine, the fuel, and the direction all at once. Principle, however, relieves the individual of strain by placing intelligence at the center. When work is guided by principle, each action has a reason, each step has a place, and nothing is done merely to feel productive. The mind moves first, and the outer world rearranges itself to match that movement. What once required constant pushing begins to respond naturally, as though it were waiting for clear instruction. Effort-based work is rooted in the belief that success must be earned through struggle. This belief trains the body to hurry and the mind to worry. It creates a cycle in which activity replaces progress, and exhaustion is mistaken for value. People trapped in this pattern often feel indispensable to their work, yet secretly resent how much of themselves it consumes. Principle-based structure dissolves this tension by removing emotion from execution. Instead of asking how much energy can be spent, it asks what order can be established. Order has no fatigue. Once set, it continues without complaint. Principle operates whether one is aware of it or not. Gravity does not negotiate, and cause does not forget its effect. When work aligns with principle, results become predictable. This predictability is the foundation of scale. A person may work very hard and still remain small, but one correct principle applied consistently can outperform years of effort. Structure is simply principle made visible. It is the embodiment of an idea that knows where it is going. When structure is present, repetition becomes safe, delegation becomes possible, and growth becomes steady rather than dramatic. The transition requires a change in identity. One must stop seeing themselves as the worker and begin seeing themselves as the organizer of work. This is uncomfortable at first because effort feels virtuous, while structure feels quiet. Yet power has always been quiet. Noise belongs to friction, not to flow. The individual who embraces principle learns to value stillness, clarity, and foresight. Decisions are made once and then trusted. Systems are allowed to function without interference. Control is replaced with command, and command comes from understanding law rather than reacting to circumstance. Effort reacts to problems as they appear. Principle anticipates them. A structure built on principle does not wait for chaos before responding. It prevents chaos by design. Clear inputs create clear outputs. Defined processes eliminate confusion. When something fails, it reveals where principle was ignored, not where more effort is needed. This perspective transforms obstacles into information rather than threats. Nothing feels personal. Everything becomes adjustable. Growth stops feeling like a gamble and starts feeling like an equation. Many believe that working harder is the fastest path forward, but speed without direction only increases distance from the goal. Principle slows the beginning so that the middle can move effortlessly. Time invested in structure returns multiplied. 1 hour spent creating a repeatable process can replace hundreds of hours of future labor. This is not efficiency alone, it is obedience to law. When thought is clear, action becomes precise. When action is precise, results compound. The mind trained in effort constantly asks what more can be done. The mind trained in principle asks what can be removed. Excess steps, unnecessary decisions, emotional reactions, and redundant tasks are cleared away. What remains is simple and powerful. Simplicity is not lack, it is refinement. It is the state in which energy moves directly toward outcome without resistance. In such a state, work feels lighter, even as it grows larger. Principle-based structure also changes the relationship with time. Time stops being chased and starts being used. Instead of filling hours, one designs outcomes. Days are no longer measured by how busy they were but by what was set into motion. A single well-placed system can produce results long after attention has moved elsewhere. This is how expansion occurs without burnout. The body rests while the structure works. The mind remains calm while the system performs. Trust is essential in this shift. Effort relies on constant monitoring because it does not trust life to respond correctly. Principle trusts sequence. Once the order is set, it allows events to unfold. This trust is not passive, it is exact. It knows that when cause is right, effect cannot be wrong. Anxiety fades because there is nothing to chase. One moves deliberately, knowing that each correct step carries its own momentum. As principle replaces effort, leadership emerges naturally. Others sense clarity and feel safe within it. Instructions become simple. Expectations become visible. Confusion dissolves. The work begins to attract cooperation instead of resistance. People function better within structure because structure removes uncertainty. It allows each person to contribute without fear. This collective alignment multiplies results far beyond what individual effort could ever produce. The greatest relief comes when one realizes that success no longer depends on mood, motivation, or energy levels. Principle does not fluctuate, it holds steady. On days of high inspiration, it channels creativity into form. Design systems that operate without constant personal involvement. Designing systems that operate without constant personal involvement begins with the recognition that presence is not the same as power. Many believe that being everywhere at once is leadership, yet true command is revealed when things function perfectly in one's absence. Personal involvement is a temporary bridge, not a permanent foundation. It is useful at the beginning, when form is still finding its shape, but it becomes a limitation the moment growth is desired. What depends on constant attention can never expand freely. Because expansion requires release, a system is an agreement between thought and action. Once established, it no longer asks for supervision, it responds to instruction. This instruction must be clear, simple, and root. In intention, rather than emotion. When people design systems while emotionally attached to outcomes, they build fragile structures that collapse the moment pressure appears. When systems are designed from clarity, they hold steady regardless of circumstance. The goal is not to remove the human element, but to place it where it creates the greatest impact, rather than the greatest exhaustion. Personal involvement often disguises itself as responsibility. The belief forms that if one steps away, everything will fall apart. This belief is not humility, it is a misunderstanding of order. Anything that collapses without its creator was never truly built, only carried. Carrying is tiring. Building is liberating. A system that operates independently is evidence that thought has been properly translated into form. It is intelligence expressed through structure, rather than effort expressed through presence. To design such systems, one must first observe where energy leaks. Repeated questions, constant approvals, and recurring problems are signs that instruction has not been fully embodied. A system should answer questions before they are asked. It should guide action without explanation. When clarity is complete, intervention becomes unnecessary. People know what to do because the structure itself communicates direction. This is why simplicity is essential. Complexity invites dependence. Simplicity creates autonomy. Letting go of involvement requires faith in law. Law does not need supervision. Once set into motion, it performs consistently. When a system is aligned with principle, it becomes self-correcting. Errors reveal themselves early. Feedback loops replace crisis management. Adjustment becomes calm rather than urgent. The designer no longer reacts, they observe. Observation is a position of strength. It allows refinement without attachment and improvement without pressure. There is also a shift in how value is perceived. Instead of valuing how much is done personally, value is placed on how well things function collectively. This shift frees time, but more importantly, it frees attention. Attention is the most valuable resource. When it is no longer consumed by maintenance, it can be directed toward vision. Vision is what keeps systems alive and relevant. Without it, even the most efficient structure eventually stagnates. A system without constant involvement is not rigid, it is responsive. Rigidity belongs to control, while responsiveness belongs to order. Control demands presence because it relies on force. Order allows absence because it relies on alignment. When alignment is correct, people, tools, and processes move together naturally. Resistance disappears. Momentum builds quietly. The work feels lighter even as it grows more substantial. Delegation becomes natural in such an environment. Tasks are not handed off with anxiety but released with confidence. Clear standards replace micromanagement. Trust replaces surveillance. This trust is not blind, it is earned through design. When expectations are precise and outcomes are measurable, trust becomes logical rather than emotional. Everyone involved understands their role and its impact, reducing confusion and increasing ownership. The greatest challenge in this transition is identity. Many derive a sense of worth from being needed. Systems that operate independently can feel threatening to this identity. Yet true worth is revealed not in indispensability, but in creation. The creator does not cling to the creation, they allow it to function. This release is not loss, it is expansion. It allows the creator to move on to higher order thinking, while the system continues to produce results. Systems that do not require constant involvement also protect energy. Burnout is not caused by work itself, but by friction. Friction arises when effort fights disorder. Order eliminates friction. When work flows through established channels, energy remains available. Creativity returns. Decision fatigue fades. The mind becomes spacious again. From this space, new ideas emerge effortlessly. There is a rhythm to effective systems. They operate in cycles, not chaos. Inputs are predictable. Outputs are reliable. Variations are anticipated rather than feared. This rhythm creates confidence. Confidence attracts cooperation. Cooperation accelerates growth. The system becomes more than a tool. It becomes an environment in which people perform at their best without being pushed. When personal involvement decreases, clarity increases. The creator can finally see the whole rather than the immediate. Patterns become visible, improvements become obvious. Instead of constantly doing, one begins directing. Direction requires distance. Distance provides perspective. Perspective reveals opportunity. Opportunity multiplies when it is acted upon calmly rather than urgently. A system that runs without constant attention becomes an extension of intention. It carries the original idea forward faithfully, even as circumstances change. This is the mark of true design. It adapts without confusion. It grows without strain. It produces without demand. The creator can step away not because they are no longer needed, but because they have successfully taught the system how to think, respond, and move according to law, allowing life to flow through it uninterrupted, steady, and exact, expanding in influence and reach while remaining grounded in clarity, precision, and trust in the order that set it in motion. Detach income from time by creating repeatable processes. Detaching income from time begins with the realization that time has never been the true source of value. Time is only a container, and containers do not create what fills them. When income is tied to hours, the mind unconsciously accepts limitation as law. There are only so many hours, so there can only be so much return. This belief quietly governs decisions, keeping effort small even when ambition feels large. The moment this belief is questioned, a new pattern becomes possible, one in which value is multiplied without demanding more presence. Repeatable processes are the language through which intelligence frees itself from time. A process is a thought that has learned how to act on its own. Once a process is clear, it no longer needs explanation. It performs the same function regardless of who initiates it or when it is used. This consistency is what allows income to separate from hours. Instead of being paid for presence, one is rewarded for design. Design is permanent, presence is temporary. Most people trade time because it feels safe. The exchange is visible and immediate. Yet safety built on time is fragile. Illness, distraction, or exhaustion instantly disrupt income. Processes create stability because they continue regardless of mood or energy. They do not rush and they do not resist. They simply repeat what they were designed to do. This repetition is not monotony, it is reliability. Reliability is what markets reward most consistently. Creating repeatable processes requires a shift in how work is observed. Instead of asking what must be done today, one asks what will need to be done every day. Anything repeated is asking to become a process. When repetition is ignored, time is consumed. When repetition is honored, time is released. This awareness transforms routine from burden into opportunity. Each repeated action becomes a candidate for refinement, simplification, and eventual automation. There is also an internal detachment required. Many cling to the idea that effort proves worth. Letting go of time-based income can feel like letting go of control. Yet control achieved through constant labor is illusion. True control comes from predictability. A repeatable process produces predictable results. Predictable results allow planning. Planning allows expansion. Expansion allows freedom. This sequence unfolds naturally once the attachment to time dissolves. Processes do not remove creativity, they protect it. When the mind is no longer occupied with repetition, it becomes available for vision. Creativity flourishes when it is not forced to solve the same problems repeatedly. A well-designed process handles the known so the mind can explore the unknown. This balance is essential for sustainable growth. Without it, creativity burns out under the weight of routine. Detaching income from time also changes decision-making. Instead of choosing tasks based on urgency, one chooses based on leverage. Leverage asks how many times an action can pay. A time-based action pays once. A process-based action pays repeatedly. This awareness naturally guides focus toward higher impact work. Small improvements compound quietly. One adjustment can affect hundreds of outcomes. This is how scale is born, not through dramatic leaps, but through thoughtful arrangement. There is patience required in this transition. Time-based rewards are immediate. Process-based rewards accumulate. At first it may seem slower. This is an illusion created by comparison. While time-based work resets each day, process-based work builds upon itself. The early stages feel subtle, but the momentum is relentless. Once established, processes accelerate without additional effort. What once required constant input now produces output with minimal attention. Repeatable processes also create clarity for others. When income is no longer tied to a single individual's time, collaboration becomes possible. Others can engage with the process without confusion. Training becomes simple. Standards become visible. Quality remains consistent. This consistency builds trust, and trust attracts demand. Demand no longer overwhelms because the process was designed to handle it. Emotion plays a smaller role when income is detached from time. There is less urgency, less fear of pause. Rest no longer feels dangerous. The mind relaxes, knowing that value continues to circulate. This relaxation improves judgment. Choices are made calmly rather than reactively. Opportunities are evaluated rather than chased. This emotional stability is often mistaken for luck by those who still operate within time-bound effort. Processes also create fairness. Results are no longer dependent on how one feels on a given day. The system treats every input equally. This neutrality removes self-judgment and comparison. Work becomes cleaner. There is satisfaction in knowing that results follow structure rather than strain. Confidence grows because outcomes are understandable. Nothing feels random. Everything responds to design. As income separates from time, identity shifts again. One stops seeing themselves as a worker and begins seeing themselves as a builder of value pathways. These pathways allow value to move freely between idea and result. Once established, they can be widened, refined, or duplicated. Each duplication multiplies reach without multiplying effort. This is the quiet power behind sustainable wealth. The fear of losing relevance often arises here. If time is no longer required, what is one's role? The role becomes higher, not smaller. One becomes the guardian of quality, the observer of trends, the adjuster of direction. Instead of being inside the process, one stands above it. From this vantage point, patterns become visible. Small changes can produce significant effects. Repeatable processes honor law. Law does not change its behavior based on circumstance. It responds the same way every time. When work mirrors this consistency, it gains strength. Strength attracts confidence. Confidence attracts expansion. The cycle reinforces itself. Income flows because structure allows it to flow. Time becomes a tool rather than a limit. Presence becomes a choice rather than a requirement. Work continues to produce value long after the moment of its creatio. N. Moving steadily through channels of order. Responding faithfully to intention. Repeating its function with precision and calm. Expanding its reach through reliability, consistency, and alignment with the principles that set it into motion. Replace hustle with clarity, order, and intelligent organization. Replacing hustle with clarity, order, and intelligent organization begins with the understanding that hustle is not a strategy, it is a symptom. It appears when direction is uncertain and structure is missing. People hustle when they are trying to compensate for lack of alignment. Movement increases because certainty decreases. Noise rises because order has not yet been established. Hustle feels heroic, but it is temporary. It burns bright and fades quickly, leaving exhaustion in its wake. Clarity is the first remedy. Clarity does not arrive through speed, it arrives through stillness. When the mind pauses long enough to define what truly matters, unnecessary actions fall away on their own. Hustle thrives on confusion because confusion creates urgency. Clarity dissolves urgency by revealing sequence. When sequence is visible, there is no need to rush. Each step knows when it is meant to occur. Action becomes deliberate, instead of frantic. Order follows clarity naturally. Order is not rigidity, it is arrangement. It places things where they belong so energy does not leak through disorder. When tasks, roles, and priorities are arranged correctly, work moves smoothly. There is no friction between steps because each step prepares the way for the next. Hustle resists order because order exposes inefficiency. Once order is present, excess effort becomes obvious and unnecessary. Intelligent organization is the practical expression of clarity and order. It asks not how much can be done, but how little is required to produce the desired effect. Intelligence seeks leverage, not labor. It observes patterns and aligns with them instead of fighting them. When organization is intelligent, it reduces repetition, shortens cycles, and removes decision fatigue. The mind feels lighter because it is no longer managing chaos. Hustle often masquerades as ambition. It convinces people that constant activity equals progress. Yet progress is measured by movement toward outcome, not movement itself. Without clarity, activity scatters energy. Without order, effort multiplies problems. Intelligent organization gathers energy and directs it with precision. The same amount of effort suddenly produces greater results because it is no longer wasted. Replacing hustle also requires releasing fear. Hustle is fueled by fear of falling behind, fear of missing out, fear of not being enough. These fears drive overwork and overcommitment. Clarity exposes these fears as unnecessary once direction is known. When one knows where they are going, comparison loses power. There is no race because there is a path. Walking the path steadily produces more than running without direction. Order brings predictability. Predictability creates safety. When work is predictable, stress decreases. There are fewer surprises, fewer emergencies. Energy that was once spent reacting can now be invested in refinement. This refinement gradually increases quality. Quality compounds quietly, attracting attention without demand. Hustle shouts. Order speaks softly and is heard longer. Intelligent. Organization also respects rhythm. Hustle ignores rhythm and pushes continuously, assuming more effort will compensate for imbalance. Organization recognizes cycles of focus and rest, input and output. It arranges work to flow with these cycles instead of against them. When rhythm is honored, sustainability becomes natural. Work can expand without breaking the one who carries it. Clarity simplifies decision-making. When priorities are clear, decisions require less thought. Many choices are already made in advance by the structure itself. This reduces mental clutter. A clear mind sees opportunities more easily. It responds instead of reacts. Hustle clouds perception because it keeps attention trapped in the immediate. Organization lifts attention to a higher level where patterns are visible. Order also creates boundaries. Hustle erases boundaries in the name of growth, leading to burnout. Boundaries protect energy. They define what belongs and what does not. With boundaries in place, focus sharpens. Time is used intentionally rather than consumed accidentally. Each action has a purpose. Nothing is done merely because there is pressure to do something. Intelligent organization transforms how problems are addressed. Instead of asking who is at fault, it asks what is missing in the structure. This removes blame and accelerates improvement. Problems become signals rather than setbacks. Each signal points to a place where clarity can be increased or order refined. Growth becomes a calm process of adjustment, rather than a frantic cycle of correction. Replacing hustle with clarity also changes communication. Messages become shorter and more precise. Expectations are stated early. Misunderstandings decrease. People feel calmer because they know what is required of them. This calm increases performance. When anxiety decreases, capability increases. The environment itself becomes supportive rather than demanding. Order creates space for intuition. When the mind is not overwhelmed by tasks, it becomes receptive to insight. Insights often arrive quietly and are easily missed in the noise of hustle. Intelligent organization creates the silence in which these insights can be heard. Acting on them produces disproportionate results because they are aligned with timing and need. Over time, clarity, order, and intelligent organization build confidence. Confidence not rooted in effort, but in understanding. This confidence is steady. It does not rise and fall with workload. It remains present because it is anchored in structure. From this place, work feels purposeful. Growth feels inevitable. The urge to hustle fades because there is nothing to prove and nothing to chase. Each step unfolds naturally from the one before, guided by clear intention, supported by order, carried forward by intelligent organization that directs energy where it produces the greatest effect, allowing expansion to occur through alignment rather than force, through precision rather than pressure, through calm arrangement rather than relentless motion. Scale through alignment of thought, structure, and execution. Scaling through alignment of thought, structure, and execution begins with the understanding that growth is not an external act, but an internal agreement made visible. Nothing expands cleanly unless the mind that directs it is itself ordered. Thought is the origin of every system, and when thought is scattered, structure becomes unstable and execution becomes inconsistent. Alignment brings these three into harmony so that each supports the other rather than competes with it. When alignment is present, expansion feels natural instead of forced. Thought sets the tone. It defines what is possible, what is acceptable, and what is expected. If thought is limited, no structure can compensate. If thought is fearful, execution will hesitate. Scaling requires thought that is calm, precise, and confident in law. This kind of thinking does not rush. It sees beyond the immediate and organizes actions according to long-range vision. When thought is aligned with purpose, it sends clear instructions downward into form. Structure receives instruction from thought. It translates intention into arrangement. Without structure, even the best ideas remain abstract. Structure decides where things belong, how they interact, and how they repeat. When structure is aligned with thought, it feels intuitive. Nothing feels excessive or missing. Each component exists for a reason. This alignment prevents friction. Work flows because the structure supports it rather than resists it. Execution is where alignment becomes visible. Execution without aligned thought becomes mechanical and empty. Execution without aligned structure becomes chaotic. When execution aligns with both, action feels effortless. People know what to do and why they are doing it. There is no need for constant correction. Momentum builds quietly. Progress becomes steady rather than dramatic. Misalignment reveals itself quickly. When thought aims high but structure is weak, collapse follows. On structure is sound but execution is inconsistent. Stagnation appears. When execution is intense but thought is unclear, burnout emerges. Alignment corrects all three simultaneously. It ensures that vision, system, and action move in the same direction at the same pace. Scaling is often misunderstood as doing more, but true scale is doing the same thing at a higher level of coherence. Alignment increases coherence. It removes contradiction. Decisions no longer conflict. Priorities no longer compete. Resources are directed efficiently because purpose is clear. This coherence is felt by everyone involved. It creates confidence without explanation. Thought alignment requires discipline. Not discipline of force, but discipline of focus. It means refusing to entertain ideas that contradict the intended direction. Doubt is examined, not indulged. Fear is observed, not obeyed. The mind becomes a place of command rather than debate. From this place, decisions are made cleanly and without regret. Structural alignment requires honesty. Weak points must be acknowledged. Redundancies must be removed. Complexity must be questioned. Structure grows stronger when it is simplified. Each layer added must serve the whole. Anything that exists only to manage confusion is a signal that thought has not yet been fully clarified. Execution alignment requires consistency. Not intensity, but reliability. Small actions repeated accurately produce greater results than dramatic actions repeated inconsistently. When execution is aligned, quality becomes predictable. Predictability creates trust. Trust allows expansion. Expansion becomes safe because the foundation holds. As alignment deepens, feedback becomes information rather than judgment. Results are observed calmly. Adjustments are made precisely. There is no emotional reaction to numbers or outcomes. Everything is treated as data responding to design. This neutrality accelerates improvement because it removes resistance. Aligned systems scale quietly. There is little drama. Growth does not feel like pressure. Capacity increases naturally. Demand is met without panic. The system stretches without tearing because its components were designed to move together. This elasticity is the result of alignment, not strength. People working within aligned systems feel supported rather than pushed. Expectations are clear. Roles make sense. Effort feels meaningful. This environment attracts competence. Competence improves execution. Improved execution reinforces structure. Structure confirms thought. The cycle strengthens itself. Alignment also sharpens timing. Actions are taken when they are ripe, not when anxiety demands movement. Waiting becomes strategic rather than passive. When action occurs, it lands with precision. Results follow quickly because resistance is minimal. This precision gives the impression of speed, even though there is no rush. As scale increases, alignment becomes more valuable, not less. Complexity grows naturally with size, but alignment prevents complexity from becoming confusion. Each new element is integrated deliberately. Nothing is added without purpose. Nothing is kept without function. Growth remains elegant. The greatest advantage of alignment is resilience. External conditions may shift, but aligned systems adjust without collapse. Thought remains steady. Saint. Rupture adapts. Execution recalibrates. There is no identity crisis. The work knows what it is and how it moves. Over time, alignment creates authority. Not authority imposed, but authority recognized. Others trust the system because it behaves consistently. Opportunities appear because clarity attracts them. Expansion feels like a continuation rather than a leap. Scaling through alignment is not aggressive. It does not dominate. It allows. It creates space for increase by removing obstruction. Thought clears the path. Structure lays it out. Execution walks it steadily. Nothing is forced. Nothing is rushed. Each level prepares the next. Growth unfolds as a natural consequence of coherence, moving forward through intelligent arrangement, disciplined focus, and precise action that remain in agreement with one another, allowing expansion to continue without strain, without confusion, without loss of clarity, unfolding step by step through alignment that sustains momentum and directs energy exactly where it belongs.